everybody. My name is Johnnie Ferro, and I am here with Mr. Alex Calder of Slidewinder Ring. This is a extremely revolutionary new invention he's got here that is literally going to change the face of guitar playing, in my opinion. So, Alex, welcome. Welcome to my studio.
Thank you, Johnny. It's an honor to be here, and I hope to live up to your high praise of this technology.
Before we get into the rings, I just wanted to ask a little bit about you. So, to start, what are you passionate about? What drives you?
I love discovery. I love finding new things that give you that aha moment. I love solving problems that people think are like, that's not solvable. But I also like helping people. I have a very, I guess, a giving spirit. I like teaching people. I like helping people. I like giving people something that they value. And then I like to see the joy on their face when they experience something new and cool. With the Slidewinder Ring, I feel like I have a chance to do that.
Tell me your earliest memory that you can think of with music.
So this sounds like a cliche, but it's actually true. I heard music in utero. My mother is a very accomplished, perfect-pitched classical singer, and she would have definitely sung to me all the time when I was in the womb. So for sure, I know I was influenced by a lot of the melodies that traveled through to me when I was hearing her sing all the time. And of course, once I was born, she sang around the house all the time. Wonderful, magical voice. And I heard all the best, Mozart, Bach, all the great classics of Vivaldi, everything that you can think of as great melodic opera and classical music. I was raised on that because it was literally around me every single day for hours.
What turned you on to being a musician? What got you started?
Well, so my mother gave us a choice when we were in grade school. They had the grade school bands that they had back then. I don't know. Hopefully they still have them around. But she gave us a choice, not whether you wanted to learn a musical instrument, but what musical instrument would you like to learn? And so she played a bunch of stuff on the radio, and I heard a trumpet go, wow, what's that? Oh, that's trumpet. Okay, that's what I want to play. The melody immediately caught my ear. So I joined the school band in 4th grade, played all the way through high school. I really enjoyed the live interaction. I just love live music. I love being part of a band. I love experiencing a band perform. The whole live music thing is just magical to me. So after high school, I started realizing that nobody wants to listen to a single trumpet playing on its own. But I started listening to a lot of the popular music around me. Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, all the greats from the 70s and 80s, and I just heard guitar making these amazing sounds. And I thought to my brain, well, I really can't use trumpet as a solo instrument, but guitar sounds really fascinating. So it sounds like such a cliche. But I remember listening to this show on great guitar players, and they were going from 100 down to 1. And the number one song for guitar players turned out to be Stairway to Heaven, which I had not heard up until that point. And I remember I had just driven home from work, and I remember sitting in my car and listening to that song and just being blown away. It's such a cliche, Stairway to Heaven, yeah, whatever. Let me tell you, that's true. After that song, I said, I must get a guitar and I must learn it, because that was magic to me. It turns out that, creative people have something that is hard to turn off. You have a button in your head that says, oh, here's something I like. But I just figured that I have more of a creative mind. So I started getting into songwriting, and rather than trying to copy songs, because I was never that good to copy them correctly, I started making songs, and I got into a very improvisational sort of style on guitar. And I love that, being spontaneous in the moment, creating something out of scratch, really. To me, that's the fun of music. Even though I like structured stuff too and playing songs, to me that magic comes when you don't know what you're doing and you come up with something new.
This is a little bit of a out there question, but tell me someone you'd love to spend a day with, living or dead, and why.
This is going to be a funny answer, but one of my personal heroes, and I have many, Lenin, Gandhi, quite a few people that have inspired me over the years, but one of my personal heroes early on is Wile E. Coyote, because I love that cartoon growing up. And if you have an inventive mind, you have to realize that whoever set up his little experiments to catch the Roadrunner was doing some thinking, actually. Like, my favorite episode is like when he puts the ball bearings from Acme, company, mixes it with bird food, right? Puts it in the middle of the road, and then he gets this giant super magnet. This is a brilliant idea. in every Wile E. Coyote episode, there's a kernel of genius in that he's, this is a crazy idea, but it might work. You just might give him a chance, right? And I was just captivated by that. So I always watched how it turns out, and of course with a bird seed and the ball bearings, of course the Roadrunner comes along, pecks away, and then he brings out the giant magnet, and sure enough, trucks come to him, cars, satellites get pulled from space. I mean, it's always comical what happens, but the idea that he's thinking creatively, he's really puzzling through a problem and trying to come up with a solution that would work. And I always liked that. And I always thought that, if I could like step into that cartoon and say, hey man, I see how this is going to go, so let me help you avoid that problem, and putting it together, we might catch that doggone bird. So that's kind of a joke answer, but I have to say I was fascinated by that cartoon for that creative part of it.
It's awesome, and I'm with you on that. I was always a Wile E. Coyote fan. I always rooted for him in the cartoons. I don't know about you. I was always so upset he never won. He tried so hard.
Yeah, of course it would have ended the show had he. But the fact that he never gave up. He never gave up, and he kept coming out with interesting ideas. I mean, some of them were so simple. Like if you think about inventions, some of them are so simple. Some of the best ones, like him going out with a big bucket of glue and painting it on the road. Thinking, this is pretty simple. Roadrunner's gonna come along, get stuck in the glue, done. Don't need any rocket ships or rocket skates or whatever. So I said, why wouldn't this work? And of course, the Roadrunner blasts right over it. Like he looks up and goes, and this, like a true scientist, he's not satisfied with, okay, that didn't work. He's like, well, why didn't this work? What's wrong with my glue? He just blasts it over the top of that. So he goes out and he sticks a toe in the glue, and oh, wait, I'm stuck. And sure enough, he's like mired knee deep in the glue, and the truck comes along, bang. But the point is, like, you could tell whoever was writing those shows was thinking like a real inventive guy, and not just satisfied with trying something, but troubleshooting it and seeing it all the way through. Which Edison always said, it's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, which is true.
So describe the moment you decided you were going to invent the Slidewinder ring. Do you remember it?
I do. It started with early in my guitar instruction. I was introduced to Jimi Hendrix, and I heard All Along the Watchtower. And there's that part he does in the middle where it's kind of, he does a finger solo, and then he does a slide thing. And the range of motion on the slide was just incredible. It's something like, he does sort of... something like that. And I heard that, and I said, wait a second, how is he doing that? He was playing just fine with his fingers. He plays that, and then he goes back to his fingers. By everything that I knew of how guitar technique worked, that was impossible. And to this day, it remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of guitar. You ask 30 different guitar players, you might get, 15 different answers. And I asked my guitar teachers, and nobody seemed to know how he did that. So I thought to myself, well, what are the possible ways? Either he had a tube slide, and he slid real fast and then put it down, went back to his fingers. That's one possibility. Or he had some kind of fancy ring that he could play with his fingers. The ring was out of the way. He did the slide part with the ring and went back to his fingers with no transition, no picking anything up or putting it down. I thought, well, that's an interesting idea. What would a ring look like if it could play that way? What would it look like? So I started experimenting with all kinds of pieces of metal in different shapes. I tried. It's funny now because now that I've seen what other people have done to approach this problem, this is a universal problem. Every slide player would like to play slide great and not give up all their fingers. This is kind of the holy grail, right? And every person who uses their fingers that plays chords and scales the normal way would love to be able to pick up a slide if they didn't have to give up everything they currently play, scales and chords and songs and everything. If it was seamless, if it was truly seamless, almost everyone would want that. And a lot of people have approached this. I saw people with, mini tube slides, ones that swivel around, ones that a lot of people have tried to solve this problem. To my knowledge, none have really succeeded, primarily because they're working with some form of a tube. Yeah. And that's limiting, because you have to not only learn to play slide, you have to figure out how to press, and if you press too hard and you have low action, then you fret out. It doesn't solve the problem just by changing the shape or size or orientation of a tube. Starting with a tube, you will fail. I figured that out pretty soon, even though I tried every possible combination of thing that you see out there today. And there were two major steps forward that allowed me to solve this problem. One was I was working with neodymium magnets for another project, and just out of what if, I just put a magnet on the strings and started moving it around and saying, wow. A magnet was just the start of the idea. So I had to work with bars. And so I ended up coming across the idea that using an angle solves another major problem. Anytime you put a tube on your finger, I don't care what length, it's going to be in the way at some point, at some level. And then what happens is because normally you play in a natural position where, let's say you're doing a C chord or a G chord, your fingers are not straight up and down. They're at an angle. Most people find that most comfortable. This creates a huge problem if you have a tube. The tube is not going to be lined up with the frets. You have to move your hand. You have to shift it. And that becomes unnatural, and then it's hard to go back and forth. So making it at an angle means that it gets out of the way completely. And not only does it get out of the way completely, it perfectly lines up parallel with your frets. It solves all the problems with having to shift your hand. It's right there. The difference between playing it's right there. There's no shift. There's no change. So any chord. It's instantaneous, the transition. It's so comfortable that it solves several problems. It grabs the string for you, so you can keep your action low. You never have to press at all. It stays out of the way while you're playing everything else. It's a natural playing position. You can keep your action low as possible, and also you can play everything around the Slidewinder ring that you can't normally play. And then that's the basic stuff. So it solves all the problems with slide. Great. But what I didn't anticipate, this is what really surprised me, what I didn't anticipate was that it would open up a whole new vocabulary for guitar that is way beyond slide. It's no longer slide when you start putting more than one and you start. So you can do all kinds of crazy things that are outside of normal slide playing, even to the point of sliding a note and changing the chord because it's in perfect parallel alignment with my frets. What if I add sevenths or ninths like this? You can trill. So you can play fingers and slide, not alternating, but simultaneously. I've never seen anybody do that. Maybe there are some people out there doing that. With Slidewinder Ring, it's easy. So normally you can't augment, change chords, or trill, or use it like an extra finger. You can actually use this like a sixth finger, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. So yeah, I discovered a whole bunch of other things too.
And you kind of answered my next question pretty much by going into how it works. So I guess I'll skip right to the question after that I had, which is, where do you see Slidewinder Ring in 5 years?
Hopefully in a way that I've never imagined it. That's my goal, because what I play is limited by my imagination, but nobody else has those same limitations, which I'm really excited about, because whenever I hand this to somebody, I'm always amazed what they show me within usually a minute or two of, oh, hey, wait, what's that sound? And they start doing something. Wherever you put it, it's going to create a different sound, like you talked about. So most of the tricks that I've learned over the years, somebody else has taught me by trying it out for the first time. And I have no doubt that once this gets out there in a few thousand different hands and a few thousand different minds start to experiment with it, we're all going to see stuff that is way beyond anyone's imagination. For example, there's no reason why you can't wear more than one ring on one hand. I mean, there are no rules. So, if you can think of it or try it, you can probably pull it off. Pull off literally. I mean, it literally plucks itself. It plays itself, like. It's like I've now got 2 extra fingers that play slide along with my 4. So I'm playing with 6 fingers, not counting the thumb. That's humanly impossible, right? So the point is that with various things, people are going to discover that it's a whole new musical language that they can explore. But my real goal, and I can't wait till this happens, is I've actually experimented with putting these rings on a wand. So I'm not even using my hand, right? There's no reason if I had, God forbid, I had to amputate my right hand Could I still play guitar and play Slidewinder ring? Very easily, actually. In fact, sometimes hands actually get in the way. Why couldn't I, and I've done this experiment, you take duct tape and a screwdriver, and duct tape the screwdriver with the blade of the screwdriver sticking out. You put a Slidewinder ring on it, and you can play brilliantly. You know, if I had a prosthetic hand with several different screwdrivers or little steel rods, and I put a Slidewinder on each one, could I play? Very easily. I just simply rotate and slide, and you could outplay anyone because it's a very rapid, simple movement. But I have no doubt that somebody who has some kind of a physical handicap will take a few rings, put them on, you know, whatever they've got, and outplay a lot of people and create a whole new sound in the process. That would make my day.
I said one other question I wanted to get to here before we get into you doing a little bit more of a demo on this. Who is one artist that you would just love to see playing Slidewinder rings?
Well, there's quite a few on that list. Eddie Van Halen comes to mind because, you know, the tapping thing, he's, you know, brilliant at. But can you imagine if he put a couple of these on fingers? I can still use my finger, right? I mean, like... And here's the other thing that Eddie can do that he can't do with his fingers. You notice I put, you know, a little Sharpie marker there? There's usually at least a full scale, if not 2 scales, above the fretboard. That's unplayable with fingers, right? Now, so I've actually, so if I go for, here's an octave, right? So the point is, imagine with Eddie Van Halen, put these, and he could start playing everything from here up that he couldn't play before. And still keep everything he's playing now. That's a whole new world. So I would love to set Eddie up with that. If he's around, please contact me. Or if you know him, please send him our way. We'll definitely let him try something new.
Outstanding. So Eddie Van Halen, if you're watching, please get in touch with this guy. He has something he'd like you to try. And one other thing before we go here is what is the best way to find Slidewinder ring website? You know, any other contact information? Sure.
Thank you for asking, Johnny. Slidewinderring.com is our website. You can connect with us through email, slidewinderring@gmail.com, and that's Slidewinder with an L, by the way. Some people mistype, you know, Sidewinder like the rattlesnake, but it's Slidewinder. Give me a call, text me, whatever. 415-706-9412. And we also have a YouTube channel and Instagram. We're very active. Again, I'm Alex Calder with Slidewinder Ring, inventor of the Slidewinder technology, and I look forward to hearing from you soon, and especially if you plan to play with it, which I hope you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Alex, for being here, and now we're just going to take a short break, and then we will get into doing a little bit more of a demo with you here with the Slidewinder Ring.